Okay, please let's take a seat, and we are starting.
So welcome back. If I can ask everyone to take your seat.
Okay. So we are starting now. Okay? Shh, please. Okay.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. I'll give you 15 seconds to find your seats, and then we will start this second session. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So this second session has a similar setup as some of you might remember from mid-November in Prague last year. We will be looking at the achievements over the last almost 1 year, hearing from the three partners behind the EOSC initiative, the member states and associated countries, the EOSC Association, and the European Commission. So, chairing this session, I thought it would be useful to remind everyone what were the main messages coming out of Prague. I mean, there were many, so I have selected what I believe are the top 3-4 messages. I think one headline from Prague was the need to be much more serious about demonstrating the added value of EOSC to the research process and increase the uptake of EOSC and open science, of course, for European scientists, researchers, and research organizations of all types. I think this was the first main message. This was about showcases and demonstrators of the added value of EOSC. The second one was about developing EOSC to be a true accelerator of the digital transition. So this was about fair, well, we used to say fair by design, others said fair by construction, same thing. Fostering a high fair data productivity, promoting fair data literacy, looking at the sovereignty of fair research data. So this, I think, was the second big message, EOSC as an accelerator of the digital transition. And then the third one, I believe, was to continue to look at EOSC as a public good. So this means, in practical terms, to have EOSC developments focusing first and foremost on the needs of the research community, the research sector, and then progressively opening up to the broader public sector and also to partners from the private sector, so connecting in that context also with other data spaces in the European data strategy. So with these three messages in mind, I think this sets the scene for this session. I would like, first of all, to remind you of the use of Slido still, so the same procedure as in the first session. Remind you also, if you put in this room something on Slido, to put Madrid first. Sarah picked 3 questions in the first session, which were from the online audience, but it would be nice also to have some live interaction here in the room. And if there's Madrid in the beginning of your question, then we will not read it, but have a live interaction from here. If I can get back the slide with the 3 speakers, I would like to invite the 3 speakers representing the 3 partners behind the EOSC initiative on stage, starting with Volker Beckmann, who is the co-chair of the EOSC Steering Board and the officer responsible for EOSC implementation at the French Ministry of Higher Education and Research. Klaus Tochtermann, who is director in the EOSC Association. He's a professor also at the Institute of Computer Science at Kiel University and director of the ZBW, the German National Library of Economics at the Leibniz Information Center for Economics. And finally, my colleague Michael Scoop, who is our EOSC team leader in the Open Science and Research Infrastructures unit in DG Research and Innovation at the Commission. And in fact, Michel, you should not be sitting down. You will be the first presenter. You will be the first presenter telling us about what we see from the side of the European Commission in terms of achievements since Prague. Please, Michel.
So, thank you, Michael, and good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here in Madrid and to attend this annual big conference that symposiums are representing for all of us. It's really a big community venture, and happy to see so many people on site and to know that there are many also remote participants. So I'm really honored to give you a kind of panorama of the various things and activities conducted by the Commission since Prague 1 year ago. And I would start by investments. You know, the Commission is a funding organization, it's a policy organization, and we are also building capacities. So we have a joint venture to enable an operational, open and fair ecosystem. And we do this through mainly the Horizon Europe program under a destination that we call InfraEOSC. I guess this is well known to you. So many activities since Prague. We have been, of course, managing several EU grants coming out of the calls we had in 21 and 22. So we have 15 ongoing grants being monitored by the Commission and its executive agency, REA. And we also try to bring those projects together because we have a European partnership approach. So we would like these grants and these consortia not to work in isolation, but to connect to the agenda we have, the common agenda we have for EOSC. So that's why we organized a coordination meeting in June this year. Now, beyond those ongoing grants, we had a call in 2023 with a deadline which was in March 2023. So we are now preparing 7 new grants, very important ones, that should start their activities by the end of this year, beginning of next year. We are also looking at the next call, 2024, and we will open this already by the end of this year. And I'm happy to say that we foresee an information day on this call, which will likely happen in November, probably on the 13th of November. So please pencil your agenda. It's not all about grants, because we are also now innovating and piloting a new type of implementation of EOSC infrastructure, which is through public procurement. And I think Gustav Kalber already gave some explanations that we have an ongoing process to select tenderers and to start entering into production by Q2 2024. But of course, this has been a major activity in 2023 to run the tender, to get dialogues with all the tenderers, and now to evaluate the final proposals we have. I would say that we are also thinking forward, because we have other calls in Horizon Europe to come in 25, 26, 27. We are currently reviewing the multi-annual roadmap produced by the EOSC Association, and this provides priorities defined together with the research community, and we really take this into consideration when developing our future work programs. And actually, we are now in the stage of drafting general orientations for the whole research infrastructure work program, and we will start soon in October discussing this with the member states through the Horizon Europe comitology. So that's in a nutshell the process. The process we have regarding investments. Now, regarding the contents, I have a few slides explaining a little bit what are the main research and innovation areas that we are addressing with those grants. So you see here that we can group them into 4 categories. We have grants dealing with enabling open science, and this touches the development of digital skills. This touches research infrastructure to underpin a research assessment system that incentivizes open science. It's also about supporting institutional open access publishing across Europe and helping, for instance, small universities to embark into this journey of open access publishing. We have other activities related to the development of a web of fair data and services for science. So this goes from deploying EOSC core components for FAIR to the discovery and interoperability of various digital research objects to supporting standards and specification that could be adopted by the research communities. The third category is about EOSC uptake, and we really encourage new fair and open use cases by the communities. We currently have a focus on supporting Horizon Europe missions. You might know we have 5 main missions, and we have already 2 grants supporting the cancer mission and supporting the mission on oceans and waters. So there will be a specific session dedicated to this during the symposium, and I invite you to attend it. The fourth category is about the partnership itself and some support activities we can fund. So happy to have the EOSC Focus project ongoing, which is coordinated by the EOSC Association. So that was for existing grants from previous calls. What's coming next? So I said yes, that we have, I'm lost in my papers, but it's no problem. We have grants that we are now preparing from the 2023 call. They address fair implementation, especially the planning, tracking and assessment of scientific knowledge production, including through open science graphs that interconnects all these digital objects. We also will support the issue of quality of scientific software and codes, because EOSC is not only about data, and there is a lot to be done regarding how to document softwares. And in the future, in 24, we would like to address trustworthy repositories federated to the EOSC, as well as the issue of long-term access, preservation, and quality of data. We will go on with further use cases. We will support in 2024 another mission, which is the climate change adaptation mission. And in 2023, we will support other kinds of use cases following the approach that we have been following with the science clusters. So we would like those science clusters to further align and exchange and collaborate, but also to outreach beyond their usual community of practice. And we hope that this expertise gained by the science clusters will also reach the long tail of science. And then we will see if we can fund another supporting activity to take over at the end of EOSC Focus to really support the partnership. Then comes, of course, the development of the EOSC infrastructure as such. Again, there was a presentation by Gustav Kelbe this morning. We have now the EOSC Future project, which is progressively coming to an end. We have started funding new grants to develop new types of services that could influence the offering and develop further the EOS Core and the EOSC Exchange in the future. But as I said, grants, it's nice, but we also need to operate an infrastructure 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this is why we come with this new approach of a public procurement, which is, I would say, is a pilot enterprise. So we'll see what can be achieved with this new approach. Okay, I already mentioned the coordination projects meeting we had. I will skip this. I mean, the point was really to bring the projects and the new consortia together, and we want to repeat this exercise in the future on a yearly basis, because every call brings new consortia, and new consortia must understand the overall EOS context and partnership contexts in which we are working. The public procurement, you know the dates. We have been publishing a prior information notice in May 2022. I'm going to skip all the details. What matters really is that we are now in the final evaluation stage, and we hope to have signatures by the end of this year so that we can really enter into production very soon. This is really essential because this EU node will provide for the next year onwards the core functionalities to enable the federation. And I again would like to insist that there will be a specific session where we'll be discussing the nodes of this federation in the context of this symposium. So for all the details, maybe good to attend that session. As Michael explained, in Prague, there was a big demand to show added value from EOSC and to demonstrate the uptake of open science principles by the research communities. I'd like to mention 2 demonstrators that have been delivered after Prague. These are only 2 examples amongst others, of course. One is the PANOSC delivery by the photon and neutron community, and the other one is the Blue Cloud initiative, which targets the marine researchers and the ocean modelers. So these 2 demonstrators have been using more or less the same approach, which can be structured along 3 axes, working to develop data lakes within the community. So by adopting common fair data policies, by adopting common templates for data management plans, and by agreeing on standard metadata and data stewardship practices within their community. On top of this, there is a service dimension which has been developed by providing a common data discovery and access service, and then providing computing, storage, and analytical services. And I must say that this has been extremely successful. We have more than 1,300 users of the Blue Cloud initiative, and this is going to further extend in the future. The success was also there with the photon and neutron community. So let's consider that we have already thematic infrastructures that follow the EOSC principles and are really good candidates to join the federation in the future. Another example is coming from the life science community. It's the new pathogens portals, which has been launched in July 2023, and which actually builds on the success of the European COVID-19 data portal. This has been supported actively by the EMBL-EBI, the European Bioinformatics Institutes, with other partners and several projects, including InfraEOSC projects like EOSC Life and the BiCovid. I must say this is extremely successful demonstrator as well of open science data shared among many communities. I mean, this is a worldwide infrastructure nowadays. Okay, very quickly, two initiatives by the Commission. One related to fair enabling a repository in EOSC. We are now working with CERN to improve a community within Zenodo that will be targeting beneficiaries of Horizon Europe projects, and where we would provide a data curation framework and fair enabling tools. So that's really trying to lead by example and providing new capacities to the research communities. There is an open call for the community to help in this joint venture and to act as early adopters. So the call is there, the link is on my slide, so if you are interested, please contact CERN on this activity. This is about data repositories. We are also active on publishing platforms. So ORE is not new, it has been launched in 2021, but we are now looking at its extension in the period 24-26, and we are also discussing the post-2026 future together with other open science funders, research funders across Europe. The monitoring capacity of EOSC, I think, will be detailed in other sessions. We are very happy to see that the survey by the member states and the associated countries participating to EOSC has been closed and has provided a lot of information. So the analysis is undergoing by the EOSC Future Consortium, and we should be able to publish results very soon. We also are looking at the EOSC post-2027 discussions. The Commission has been proactive by organizing information webinars, by developing a full reflection with the Member States and the EOSC Association to define future tasks for EOSC after 2027, and based on this to consider various options, governance options and financing options. So this again will be the subject of a specific session this afternoon, so please come and join us to discuss this. The aim is really to provide a document that will help the Member States to shape their own positions on the future of EOSC and to enable these national delegations to express those positions very soon in Madrid in November this year. Okay, then we have continuous activities related to structures in which we are involved for the EOSC implementation, the steering board with the member states, the partnership board with the EOSC Association, the new S3 EOSC task force, which has been launched in June this year. We have continued collaboration with the EIRG and the group of E-infrastructures in Europe, and the NPR, the National Point of Reference Network, to which we report on EOSC achievements on a yearly basis. Last slide. We continue to bring EOSC into our European policies, especially the European Data Strategy and the European Research Area Policy Agenda. EOSC is one of the actions there, and we try to improve the synergies with other ERA actions. So there would be a lot of things to be said on this, but time is too short. So with this, I think you have a panorama of these things we are doing, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michel, and also for almost keeping the time. We have a wonderful device here which starts in green, yellow, now it's red and blinking. I will quickly invite Klaus to make the presentation from the point of view of the EOSC Association. Please, Klaus.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I have a sheet of paper here, not because I don't know what to say, but I got some instructions from Ute, and I don't want to experience what happens if I miss one of the instructions. Okay. Is that your answer to my? Now there is slide number 1. So together with Uta, we agreed to address the following three topics: the tripartite collaboration, the EOSC Association's contributions and commitments to the partnership, and finally we want to highlight strategic work of the EOSC Association. And as you know, the tripartite collaboration is there to deeply engage the member states and the associated countries in the EOSC, in the development of the EOSC, and the EOSC Association is providing support to the organization of these tripartite events in the different countries. Next slide, please. Yeah. Here you have an overview of all the tripartite events which took place in 2023 and which will take place in the coming weeks, and also which will take place in 2024. And here we have one instruction. Switzerland is formally not a tripartite event because Switzerland is not an associated country. Still, it's important to us to reach out to our colleagues in Switzerland to get them involved into the development of the European Open Science Cloud. And if we put together the figures, the numbers of participants we have, I think we were quite successful. In 2023 only, we managed to attract more than 900 participants to the tripartite events. We had 166 moderator, panelists, speakers, and we targeted 11 countries here in Europe. And if we accumulate, and look now at the lower part of the figure, accumulate the figures from 2022 with those from 2023, we managed to attract more than 2,000 participants to attend these tripartite events. We had more than 340 speakers, and this is only in the events which were organized within the EOSC ecosystem. For example, last week we had the big German conference on the German National Research Data Infrastructure with 740 participants, and EOSC was, there in almost every talk. EOSC was addressed, the people were talking about EOSC during the conference. So the outreach of what we do is much broader than what is addressed only in the tripartite events, but still these are very important instruments to reach out to the community in the different member states and associated countries. Next topic addresses our commitments and our contributions to the partnership. And number one is the additional activity plan, which puts together, accumulates all the in-kind contributions by the EOSC members. 2022 is currently being prepared. For 2023, we are targeting at 384 million euros as in-kind contributions from our membership base, and 2024 is currently being established. On the right-hand side, you see a screenshot from one of the training sessions we offered. And I think I have another instruction here. The deadline of the AAP 2024 has been extended to the end of September. I is in this case Uta, would like to encourage everyone to do it. And we will have a monitoring session tomorrow in which you will be provided with further details. It was about adding value. Michael mentioned that. That was one of the three outcomes of the Prague event. So how can we demonstrate added value? AAP, as mentioned, is one of these instruments. In 2022, we could show that more than 300 million euros were provided in kind, which is pretty much 1,400 full-time equivalents which were working in the membership organizations towards the development of the EOSC. In 2023, the figures even went up. It accumulates to 380,000 euros in-kind contributions and more than 2,000 full-time equivalents. The multi-annual roadmap 2025 was also a document which kept us quite busy over the summer break. Here I would like to thank our task forces for their continuous support, for all their efforts they made to design this document. We drafted a document. We have sent it to our 13 task forces and included also a public consultation. And all in all, we received 652 comments we had to include in our draft MAR document. And as you know, the MAR 2025-2027 addresses 3 objectives. The first one is making open science to become the new normal. The next one, the second one, is about standards, tools, and services. And the third one is establishing a federated infrastructure to enable open sharing. I think macro roadmap is another topic which will also be addressed later this afternoon by Ilira from Graz University of Technology in the session starting at 2 o'clock. And the macro roadmap is an outcome of the structured collaboration of the EOSC Association with the infra-EOSC projects. And what you see here with the timelines is we identified different topics. And for each of the topics, we have a timeline. I zoom in and now, or zoom out. Maybe difficult to reach, but here is how it is presented on the webpage, eosc.eu/roadmap. For example, if you open the implementation challenges and they are Q1 2023, you will see that the By COVID project provided the COVID-19 hub, which was already mentioned by Michael. And through that, we have a nice overview of the outcomes from the different infra-EOSC projects. For the near future, we want to add also the AAP data, and yesterday evening during the meeting of the board of directors, we were also discussing to include the outcomes of our task forces. Next slide, please. Now some highlights from our strategic work. Next slide. So a topic which is also, intensively addressed here during this symposium is the EOSC post-2020 scenario. Here we have discussed over the summer break what our position is. We included that into discussions with our 13 task forces. And the task forces provided very valuable inputs to that discussion. What you see here is like our structure, how we organize the task force work. You have the task forces in these sheets. Then you have the title of the report they are expected to produce. We have the co-chairs of the task force, the board liaison, which is the person linking up from the board to the task forces, and then we have a delivery date of a respective outcome of a task force. So far, we published 6 reports from the task forces. 6 are still under review, and we expect to have 21 ready and published by the end of the year. And here's another instruction. We still look for volunteers to review some of the task force reports. If you are volunteering for that task, please contact Ute and offer her your support. We had a general assembly taking place on site in Brussels in May this year. And here we informed the membership base on our positions on the future development of the EOSC Association. Shortly before that meeting, the node concept was published, and those of you who attended the General Assembly might remember how, how many different opinions and perspectives on the node concept existed at that point in time. So we were very much discussing about what is actually the EOSC EU node, what is a thematic node, what is a regional node, what is a national node. And also this concept will be further discussed in an unconference during this symposium, which will be organized by Bob Jones. And lastly, we also continued the discussion for our future scenario. Those of you who are deeply involved in the further development of EOSC post-2027 development might know that the Commission came up with 5 different tasks which need to be addressed in the future. And our preferred option from the Board of Directors is option 4B, that is joining or merging task number 1, that is operating the EOSC, task number 2, which is maintaining and updating the EOSC, and task number 4, which is about developing new elements and services for the EOSC. That is what I wanted to share with you, and I made up 4 minutes, so no problem that Michael needed more time. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Klaus, for giving us this perspective from the EOSC Association. And without further delay, I would like to invite Volker on stage. Please, Volker.
Thank you. I just was wondering if this just gives you a false feeling of control, but it should work. And I follow the instructions of Ute, even though Ute didn't instruct me. But we always follow the suggestions of the association. So yes, thank you very much. So I would like to give you a bit the overview what we did in the steering board since Prague. So just a reminder, what is the steering board? So it's very different than the EOSC Association with this huge number of partners. It's of course different than the Commission. So the EOSC Steering Board, that's a Commission expert group. And what it means is that there are representatives of all the 27 member states and of the 12 associated countries. Soon it will be 13, so because the UK is going to join us in January. And it's co-chaired between the Commission and the steering board. Why is this setup chosen? Because this ensures a good communication between the European Commission and the member states, because at the end, if we want to drive EOS forward, we have to have the support of the member states, of the associated countries, in order to make things happen in the countries. Because main activities, as you know, for EOSC are happening in the countries, in the institutions, and this can only work if you have the support, if you have the communication with your ministries. So you're also invited to click then on this link if you don't know who your representative in the steering board is, because all this is public. You even find all the meeting minutes public on the site with a delay of 9 months or something. We are sometimes a bit slow in having the meeting minutes out. So what we do is, we do ensure the interconnection with the other relevant initiatives and the programs at the EU level, and we meet only 6 times per year. So this means what for you are the task forces, for us are the subgroups, because we have subgroups who meet then in between and they drive forward what we have to work on. For example, the monitoring and the policy development, because that's the other main thing we are doing, the monitoring and proposing policies for the different countries, making sure that these are aligned, making sure to identify who perhaps still needs some help, some support in making sure that policies are put into place, and that these policies then are not only at the national level, but at the end also at the research funding and research performing organizations. So this was one of the main activities in the last year. You saw last year in Prague the first survey, which had a very limited range of questions. This time, it's really about all the different aspects of open science and the EOSC. So it's with a focus on policies and practices. So practices means investment and monitoring of this investment, of the progress in the countries, and use cases. So this is also a new dimension. Following what we discussed last year, we have to demonstrate the added value of EOSC. We have to show what works, and we cannot stress this enough. We need this at all levels, not only at European level. We want to know personal testimonies of researchers who say, this is what I look for in EOSC, and this is what I find in EOSC, and this works for me. And you want the same on institutional level. How do organizations benefit from being part of EOSC? So this is very, very important, and I think this is something we all have to take home and to do in our daily work, that we communicate what is needed and what works and what of the EOSC ecosystem we can make use of. So the survey was launched in February, so it's called the 2022 survey, and it includes information about financial contributions from 21, so there's always a bit of a mix. So, and we had 32 countries who replied and validated their results, so in principle, we are going to be able to publish them. So 24 member states, 7 associated countries, and we are very happy always that Switzerland also joins this effort. So we have a large number of data points, and all this is going to be made publicly available through the observatory, and you will see the presentation by Roberto tomorrow at 9:30 in the monitoring session with a bit more details and numbers and so on. But for example, we just heard the number of 300 million reported for 2022. No, AAP was some year in the past. 300 million euros by the association members, and in the 21 numbers by the steering board, that's of course not only partly comparable because it includes everything which is open science, like open access to publications and so on. So we have a total number of about 400 million euros for 21 invested in EOSC and open science by the member states. Yes. Okay, so we don't do this monitoring only because we are curious. We also want to make sure that we see progress. So what does this mean? We want to have, at the end, an uptake of open science in all the countries, and we have set ourselves some goals, some quite ambitious goals in the open opinion paper we published last year, and which you saw last year at the meeting in Prague. So we are not yet there, but you will see then in the EOSC Observatory, once we have this online, how far we are with this nice graphics which show then the different axes of open science and how we are doing there. And one of the main challenges, I would say now, is to transport this open science policy development from the national level into the research performing organizations, and to know which organizations are adopting that and acting on that. So on the policies, we had shown these 4 opinion papers, and also we had some recommendations on the data space on health. So just for your information, this regulation on the European health data space is still not finalized, so this is ongoing work, so might be finalized next year, and then you will see this first regulation for a European data space coming out. So in 23, we follow up on the opinion papers because there were a lot of things we had to act upon and to work upon. And we have 2 main axes we want to address this year: fair data productivity and digitization of research. So this is also an outcome of what we discussed in Prague last year. So in order to address some of these points, especially we have mentioned already today many times the importance of infrastructures, of research infrastructures on the European, on the national level, in order to participate in EOSC. And we know that it's not always easy for us to know what the infrastructures need and what the infrastructures can use from our side, from the EOSC side. So we have put in place an S3 EOSC task force, and I'll say a few words about that. And then, of course, we have the post-2027 reflection, which was mentioned already earlier. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Next slide, please. Good. So the S3 EOSC task force. So we have this European research area. So you have the different actions in there, what we should work in research in Europe on with priorities. So action number 1 is open science and EOSC, and action number 8 is the research infrastructures in ERA. And there was a council conclusion that we really need to coordinate better between what we do with the S3s, for example, and with EOSC, and that there has to be more communication, more coordination, more collaboration on these points. So we have this task force now with the European Commission, with the S3 Forum, and EOSC Steering Board, so 2 members each. And then we have some observers in there, also from the EOSC Association and from EIRG and so on. So what do we do there? So we have identified 2 main axes to work on, and you saw this already on our policy priorities. So the first point is reduce fragmentation. What do we mean? We need to know who is doing what and what can be used by the S3s from the EOSC world. What do the research infrastructures look for when they think of EOSC? This shouldn't be a burden. They should see the added value of the EOSC and should say, yeah, this is why I want to participate, and this is what I can contribute, and the other way around as well. So we have to understand what the S3s are, what their main challenges are in order to produce fair data, in order to sharing services, and also the e-infrastructure aspect. So where can we have the support to do the storage, the computing, and also the transportation of data. And the second axis is to assist in increasing of fair research data productivity in Europe. So that's, of course, something which was mentioned also today already. So having fair data, but fair, I cannot stress this enough, doesn't mean human-used data. This means machine actionable data. So we have to make sure that we have data which are AI-ready, for example, that we can really harvest all the potential of the data in there. Good. So this was the work on policies, and we have also, of course, this reflection on how shall we go forward after Horizon Europe into FP10. So just to show you, this is an iterative process. So it started with this with a meeting last year in July, I think, where we met in Brussels and we discussed how to go forward, and it was decided to have a first document by the Commission and the EOSC Association. Then this went into the symposium, this went then to the steering board, we gave comments from some countries and again from the EOSC Association. So this is going forward and backward, and Michel already mentioned, so we are now working on a draft document to explain the different options, how to go forward in terms of governance, in terms of financing. This has been drafted by the Commission and the EOSC Steering Board, by some champions, we call this, so some colleagues who dive into that. And then we have given this document to the EOSC Association to have their opinion, but this doesn't mean that this discussion is over. So we are going to produce this document. We plan to make a SWOT analysis in there to see what are the advantages and disadvantages of the different models. And then we are going to give this to the steering board members into the countries, and the discussion should then be at the national institutional level. What does this mean? Does this work for us? Because, of course, every country has different starting points, and we have this session, EOSC in the countries, for example, which is going to show you tomorrow, I think, how the different approaches are to EOSC in different countries. So we don't know this necessarily all at the board of directors or at the EOSC steering board, so we are going to give this back to you, and this should arrive then on your desk, in your communities, for further discussion. And of course, it's a lengthy process. It's going to go there and back a few times. The motivation why this is steered by the Commission and by the EOSC Steering Board is that at the end, we also have to convince the ministries in our countries to support that. And if we don't get this support, we are not going to go forward in that. Okay, so just to summarize, so monitoring is an important aspect of what we do, not only because we are very curious what works and what doesn't, but also to motivate each other and to drive the development forward. Policies is a slow process, right? We have to agree between the different countries what should be the priorities, what should be the goals, what can we recommend to implement in the countries, and how should this work, what we do in EOSC, correlate with what the research infrastructures do, and how can we better connect to the research infrastructures. So for this, we have this S3 EOSC task force, which should also produce then recommendations and actions. And of course, this discussion about EOSC after FP10, and what does this mean in your country? What do you have to do on the national, on the institutional level in order to have EOSC going forward? And one thing which is always mentioned is now the nodes, the national thematic and the EU node. This is all a discussion right now, right? It's not decided yet. So you're very invited to discuss with us, with the Commission, with the association, what you would like to see there. Thanks. Yeah, that's important. So one message from the steering board is we are getting ready for FP10 in these discussions. I think it's fair to say that the member states and the associated countries are ready to stronger support the EOSC. This means financial contributions, this means supporting this at the national level, helping the institutions to be part of EOSC, because we have to find more persistent solutions. And if this is a model where the external entity takes task 1, 2, and 4, or just 1, 2, this is something we are going to see this afternoon, so you're very invited to this afternoon session, which will be very lively, I think, where we are going to discuss how to go forward. Thank you.
Many thanks, Volker, and thank you also for leaving us 5-10 minutes for questions from Slido. Sarah.
Yeah, so actually I see there is a question from Patrick Shelvis, and I wonder if Patrick is in the room. Patrick, do you want to ask the question yourself over there? Can you give Patrick a microphone, please? I'm gonna take you my microphone.
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering about other work programs in the Horizon Europe program, because Michel was only talking about the infrastructures work program to support EOSC and open science, but how can, for example, the Videra work program support our activities?
I will give the microphone to Michel, but definitely this is a key question, that support should not only be coming from the research infrastructure work program.
Yes, I think we have to differentiate between open science in general and research infrastructure supporting open science. And I think the center of gravity of the infra-EOSC destination is really to develop the ecosystem of research infrastructure supporting open science. This is one part of the story, of course, because we have to work on the boundary conditions that will allow a rich ecosystem of research infrastructures. You need data, you need services, but you need skills, you need a research assessment system that incentivizes open science. You need a legislative and regulatory framework that allows those research infrastructure to share research data in an open way. So there are many other dimensions around the EOSC infrastructure ecosystem that will influence this ecosystem. And that's why I think the wide era work program is extremely useful also to complement our activities in the infra-EOSC destination of the research infrastructure work program.
Yes, and if I may add, the other 4 destinations on the research infrastructures program is also should also be contributing to EOSC developments. Not to mention the clusters under Pillar 2, where also the activities more focused on the thematic research should link into research infrastructures that are used by these thematic communities, but also services that are developed in Pillar 2 and how they link back into the research infrastructures activities.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions, I think, also coming from the room about clarification. What is the role of the EOSC Association compared to the steering board regarding policies? And what are the task forces, subgroups currently in place with the steering board?
Well, it's how we are set up, right? The steering board, this is the representation of the countries. So if you want to have national policies in place, the proposals can come from the association, but we have to support that at the steering board in order to make this happen. And the association knows very well what is happening on the institutional level and can drive forward much more efficiently, I think, the discussion. What kind of recommendations, policies should be implemented for a university, for a research performing organization?
On my last slide, I had that I had the headline, EOSC Association is the voice of the community. I think this is particularly our role, that we reach out to the membership organizations, we listen to them, we structure them in the task forces, we receive their results, and that input is then communicated, for example, to the steering board and to other policymakers. So we are the voice of the community. That's the EOSC Association.
There are a couple of questions about the first question. The most voted question, as you can imagine, is the definition of a node in the sense of EOSC. So I was not asking this on purpose, but I think, I'm not sure that we can address this in the remaining 2 minutes, unless you want to comment on this. But there is a dedicated discussion during the symposium for that. So I wouldn't go there unless someone wants to add something. And there was also a request for clarification about the concept of public procurement. What is the basic idea and how will it work? I don't know, maybe if you want to say something.
Yes, if we may start, I think it is worth just 1 or 2 minutes on the concept of the nodes. Still, I know there's a specific session later, but I think it would be useful, Michel.
Yes, the word node is probably confusing because it has been used in several contexts by different communities with different understandings. For instance, we have national nodes that are not necessarily infrastructure nodes, but that are coordination nodes, so that you have really engagement of the open science community in each of the member states and associated countries. This is a node, but it's not an infrastructure node. You have competence centers like those that are built either at national level or thematic level or within the science clusters. This could be used as nodes, but they are not necessarily infrastructure nodes. So I think in the concept of an EOSC federation, which we see as a system of systems, we have really to insist on the word infrastructure nodes. And I think we gave some examples in the presentation of the Commission. For instance, ORE might be an infrastructure node to help open access publishing. The Zenodo itself and its future Horizon Europe community might be a data repository node within the EOSC Federation. But you can multiply the examples. I mean, what I showed for PANOSC or for the Blue Cloud initiatives might be community thematic nodes also contributing to the federation without forgetting all the national platforms by the various countries participating to the member states. So all these infrastructure platforms do serve research communities in various ways, and the issue is really what would they want to expose within a system of systems that would be the EOSC Federation. So that's where comes this concept of infrastructure node.
Yeah, maybe on the procurement side also. I mean, in the first phase of EOSC, it was only based on grants. We have seen the limitations, not least in how this come together in terms of a common platform where IPR issues also are clear. We are seeing very much the procurement now as a pilot. How can we, as the Commission, use this to procure managed EOSC services? But we see this as, I think Gustav was saying, as kickstarting what can be done in terms of creating such a central node, enabling the federation. But again, procurement has its limitations. And in particular, as was explained also by the other speakers, we are moving into a new phase of operations, an operational EOSC, a new phase where the different elements of EOSC also needs to be upgraded, a phase where the federation needs to be built. So this is why also the reflections on post-27 is extremely important, not only in terms of funding and governance, but also in terms of the right instruments. I saw that Klaus was about also to speak on this point. Volker? All right, let's take another one.
So maybe one last question. There is also some question on Simple, but we have a session tomorrow morning, so I'm not taking this one. There is this question for the Commission. In what future role would the Commission like to see the EOSC Association? I picked an easy one.
Yeah, this is not an easy one. It's not an easy one. We, in this post-27 reflections, we stay at the level of what are the needs of the research community. I think this is really the first question. And for that purpose, what are the tasks that should serve the needs of the research community? So we really start from the substance and the needs and the added value of developing EOSC. And once we have that in place, we start looking at what would be the best ways of governance, of finance, and also of operations. And this is at the stage where we ask ourselves what would be the best entity to operate and upgrade. And of course, the EOSC Association is one of the candidates. But as you will see also in the discussion at the session later in the symposium, this is still open, and the different options is exactly what we will present, what is the current state of reflections, and invite all of you to comment on the pros and cons of all these options.
Yeah, I think we can finish this panel.
Yeah. So let me thank again the three speakers from the three parties. Please give them a round of applause. And with that, I will hand over the main mic back to Sarah for introducing the next session. Thank you.
Yeah.